Shabbat Shalom, everybody. Rashbi here, Rabbi Stephen, with this week's 10-Minute Torah. So we had a very fulfilling weekend. We had family service. We had a student consecration on Friday night. It was wonderful. It was really kind of the first one of the year, and the kids did a wonderful job. New crop of kids, a new class. And these kids, and this is the next line of kids that will be bar bat mitzvah in about a year or so. So they did a great job. And on Saturday morning, we had our women's health presentation, and what a great time to do it, but on Shabbat. And of course, we don't do any supplication. It's all Thanksgiving, and we want to thank Hashem for our health, and we want to take precautions, okay, men and women alike, especially women, because women seem to have more issues, especially with breast cancer on the rise. So thank you for all the people that attended. We had a minyan, and including some people who typically don't come. So I hope you enjoyed it, and I hope this is the beginning of join us every now and then. It'd be for Saturday morning. Help us make a minyan. It was awesome. Having said that, a lot of you know that a few days ago I released another video about what happened in Pittsburgh. At this point, we'll know more about the people that died. We'll know more about the shooter, what his agenda was, and we know what his agenda was. He wants to use Jews as a scapegoat. It's been going on for the last 2,000 years. It's the way it is. Our response, we have to continue doing what we do. Yes, there's a lot of fear, but through the generations, we Jews have been very resilient. Back in the Middle Ages, when the king's men were patrolling the streets, making sure we didn't study Torah, we studied underground. And a lot of people have heard the story about what Jews at that time used to do about Purim. We have Purim now, and of course we have freedom of religion, so we get in the synagogue, and what do? We say Haman, and we do the groggers, we make noise, we do everything. Couldn't do that back then. The king's men would hear us, they'd come, they'd arrest us, and most likely we'd be executed for practicing Judaism. So what our people used to do was they would take chalk, and they'd be very quiet, and they would write the word Haman on the sole of their shoes. And when they came in the Megillah to reading Haman, they would rub out this chalk. And that's the way they celebrated Purim back then. But today, of course, we can do that. Now, a lot of people are going to be scared, and this means, yes, we have to increase our security a little bit. We have to be a little bit more vigilant. What we don't want to do is we want to give up Judaism. We want to keep studying. This week's portion closes the life of Sara and Abraham, our first couple that really promoted this whole new monotheistic way of thinking, that there is one God, and that God is just, and he's perfectly just. You get what you deserve all the time. There is reward, there is consequences, and we want to do what is right. And this was really the beginning of the formal heritage of Judaism, the formal process, the formal body of thought, that there is one God, that we should be good to each other, that we should respect each other, not that we should just go around worshiping trees and heavenly bodies, and having no respect for human life. But this is what Abraham did. He was the first. Now, brings up some interesting questions, doesn't it? God came to Abraham, or Avram as he was then, when he was 75 years old, okay? What about Adam and Eve? What about Noah? Were they prophets? They talked to God. But I think the difference is that Abraham was the first one to say, we need a system here. Because what happened with Adam and Eve? Okay, 10 generations later, we have Noah. And Noah is building an ark because God's going to destroy people because they're wicked. They're out there robbing each other, taking stuff that doesn't belong to them, that they want. Anyway, it doesn't matter. No respect for humans. Okay, what happens in Abraham's life? Abraham saw the destruction of Sodom and Gomorrah. These people were extremely xenophobic. If somebody in their town gave somebody quarter, a traveler, then they would go out and they would absolutely punish the person that did it. They'd punish the travelers. That's who they were. So Sarah, the Parsha opens up with Sarah dying. That's why it's called the life of Sarah, because it reviews. She was 100, and it talks about how old she was. 120 and 7 and whatever the figure was. Because she was old, but you know what? She had the youthful vigor and innocence of a young person. She was truly a remarkable woman. And the intimation And in the Torah, nothing happens by accident. It's all very purposely laid out. The last chapter, the end of the last chapter, saw Abraham bringing Isaac up to the Akedah, the altar, where he was going to sacrifice him. And of course, an angel stayed his hand. And the Midrash says that it was Satan that told Sarah that her son, her only son, the one that she gave birth to in her old age by a miracle, was going to be killed, and it was too much for her, so she died. But on the other hand, this was really just kind of the last push. I mean, she was old anyway, and that's why it said, and this is the life of Sarah. Her death was not unnatural. It wasn't caused really by anything. Maybe a little bit of heartbreak had something to do with it. But at the same time, she lived a wonderful, full life. So Abraham's mission now is his son Isaac's about 35. He needs a wife. Matchmaker, make me a match, right? So what does Abraham do? He tells his servant Eliezer, who was his biggest proselyte, he was his biggest follower, to go to Abraham's relatives. I mean, he knows it's a wicked world and there's not a lot to choose from, but he says, go to my relatives, and that's probably the closest, where you're going to find the closest person who can adopt, this new way, this new way of monotheistic thinking. So he goes there, and he has this criteria in his head that he's going to find, that someone's going to be there, and he's just going to meet the right person. Same thing with Abraham, just go to a land that I will show you, just leave your family. He does it on faith. Tells Eliezer, just go there, you'll find the right girl. And the right girl comes, it's Rebecca, and she comes and she's watering, she's pulling water from the well, and she gives Eliezer, and without even asking, without even thinking, she pours water in a trough for the camels that came. And Eliezer knows that this is a good-hearted woman. Now, for all you animal lovers out there, this is where we get the idea that before you sit down and eat, you feed your animals. I know a lot of people are gonna enjoy that one, right? A lot of animal lovers in our area. And Eliezer meets her relatives. He meets her father Bethuel. He meets her brother Laban, who was real kind of a cad, trying to take advantage. And he sees Eliezer with all these gifts that Abraham told him to bring. And he's got the golden nose rings, and he's got the gold. He's got, cattle for him as a present. Like, not like you're trying to buy the woman, but this is kind of like our gift to you for having a wife for Isaac. So they take the gifts, and Laban, of course, is actually kind of, in a very disrespectful way, takes the lead, where it really should have been Bethuel, the father of Rebecca, but Laban, the brother, the older brother, probably the oldest, kind of takes the lead and sees this opportunity, like, oh, this is a rich guy, maybe we could get some stuff out of him, some more stuff, right? But Rebecca, being the evolved soul that she was, sees that these are good people. So she voluntarily goes back with Eliezer. Isaac is out there praying in the field, and they say that this was the point where Isaac instituted the mincha, or the afternoon service. He's out there praying in the field, and she sees him, puts the veil on, because you're not supposed to see the bride right before the marriage. And he loves her. He doesn't get married and then loves her. He loves her and then gets married. It was a kind of love at first sight, if you will. And they recognize each other, the two souls. Maybe we talk about in Kabbalah, they talk about the Beshert. I've read a lot of the Zohar. I have yet to encounter that particular word, but they found each other. They were meant for each other, right? Just kind of clicked. And so they're married, and now Abraham can go on. He marries Keturah, who a lot of people feel was Hagar, and Hagar basically had to turn around. Ishmael had to turn around, because at the end, Ishmael and Isaac both bury Abraham in the cave of Machpelah next to Sarah. And it says that Ishmael maybe, had a little bit of a turnaround, and he kind of, repented, and he forgave. And of course, Ishmael is the father of the Muslims, and they have their own lineage and their own interpretation of some of the events. But that's okay. It is what it is. And there was peace. There was peace. Now, I don't usually do this, but in our Sansino Chumash, the Sansino edition, this is the conservative movement edition, that was edited by Rabbi Joseph Hertz, the late, great chief rabbi of the British Empire. I would like to read to you what he said about Abraham, because this is beautiful. This chapter concludes the biblical account of the first of the patriarchs. It is difficult indeed, because of our lifelong familiarity with the story, rightly to estimate the nobility and grandeur of the personality revealed in these chapters. He was a pioneer of the monotheistic faith. Undazzled by the heathen splendor of a Nimrod or a Hammurabi, he broke away from the debasing idol worship of his contemporaries and devoted his life to the spread of the world-redeeming truth of the one God of justice and mercy. He forsook home and family to brave unknown dangers because the voice of God bade him to do so, and throughout his days he showed that faith in God must manifest itself in implicit and joyful surrender to the divine will. He set an example to his children to sacrifice the dearest things in life, and if need be, life itself, in defense of the spiritual heritage entrusted to their care. While he preached renunciation in the service of God, he practiced loving kindness and truth towards his fellow men. Witness his magnanimity in the treatment of Lot, his fine independence in the refusal to accept any of the spoils won by the men of his household, his benevolence in the reception of strangers, his stand for justice when pleading for the doomed cities, and his all-embracing human pity, which extended even to those who had forfeited all claim to human pity. Finally, the closing stage of his life shows his anxiety that the spiritual treasures he has acquired should be transmitted unimpaired through his son to future generations. Verily, he is the prototype of what the Jew should aim at being. Look unto the rock whence ye were hewn, look unto Abraham your father, is the divine exhortation addressed to Israel in the book of Isaiah. Shabbat Shalom. Look forward to seeing you in services this weekend. Tat Shabbat, 5:45. We'll have a quick class, a prayers class. It's at 6:30, and then we'll have services at 7 on Friday. Saturday morning, regular service, 9:30. See you there. Thank you.